Oh, good. I was afraid we were going to have more issues like we did on Sunday. It just looks like it did like it's supposed to do, and hopefully we'll stay on here. However, especially if you're new to coming into my lives, just so you know, every so often YouTube decides to cut us off in mid flow. And so if that happens, I can't get the stream going again from here when that happens. So I try to always have a reboot stream ready to go, currently set on private, but you'll find a link to that in the description box. I'll only use that if I have to and if I've got through all of my main points that I wanted to make, and then we're just chatting, and usually by that point it's like, oh, I won't bother starting a second stream if I need to. But I've had it happen just like within a couple of minutes of getting started before I even got into my topic, which is highly irritating. So it's good to see y'all coming in. I did kind of run through and see Dusty and Deb, and let's see who else, Tammy, and let's see. I know there were some others. Oh, Dusty, you were gonna try. What are you doing? Anyway, Linda and T. So good. I know T doesn't always get to make it to the live, so it's good to see you here, T. And Cheryl, and many more. Well, I say many more. There's currently 12 people in here. I'm pretty sure I didn't list off 12 names. So let me do my greeting before I forget, like I did last week. Hello, everyone. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Glad to see y'all here. So today, this is probably going to be a pretty quick topic. I wanted to talk a bit about the whole bug out bag, go bag kind of thing. Even though I sometimes split personality is rampant here. Yeah. Deb and Deb, Tammy, or Dusty and Dusty, or Dusty and Adam / Dusty. Anyway, what was I trying to say? I don't typically like to call it go bag or bug out bag, even though I do. I think it reduces the purpose of it down to an assumption that a lot of people already make about just preparedness in general. So this actually goes hand in hand with the video that published on my main channel earlier this morning. So hello. I'm sorry. And about the whole talking to your, how to talk to people, when you're trying to encourage them to prep and they're just, they just want to call you names and be mean and or laugh at you or whatever, or or even get angry with you. I think when people can see that there are everyday real life situations that make these things actually rather important and certainly, if nothing else, highly convenient. So our go bag or our bug out bag, so sometimes referred to as a bob, go simply stands for get out. And this is why I don't always like these terms, because this assumption that it's always all about bugging out. And why would you keep a bag like I didn't bring the big one in. It's in one of the rigs. I didn't feel like going and getting it. But the one that I show in the thumbnail, but I got my purse here. I've got my smaller go bag that looks like this. And I'm not going to be going through, this is actually more of a sling pack is what it is. Like that. That's kind of the next step up from this one. So I don't want to go into detail about everything that's in these, because I have a whole series of videos where I break things down. Like the first video in the series, just me showing a few random things I keep in my purse as everyday carry. So everyday carry is actually a decent way to call a decent thing to call some of this stuff, but I don't carry this stuff every day though either. It's just I have things I like to keep in the car or in the truck, and then things that are always in my purse, because if I go anywhere, my purse is always with me. And so I do have a bunch of stuff that is just always in there. Like I always have 2 or 3 different types of pocket knives in my purse, because I've never had to use one to defend myself, but I have had to use them for many other regular, mundane, day-to-day things. Sometimes it's just opening something up or cutting some threads off that were hanging off my skirt that I missed, or something simple like that. Or yes, even cutting a cake. That happened one time. So I think I told you guys I was at my, my oldest son, his wife, her bridal shower, and nobody had brought a knife to cut the cake. And it's like, well, I have one. So used one of my bigger pocket knives to cut the cake with. And it was something, and it was handy. And this is the kind of thing that why what did I title this? I think I titled it More Than Just a Bug Out Bag, because to me, none of my bags are really a bug out bag. Could we use them as such if we had to? Well, of course, absolutely. But that's not the main reason we keep them and have them on hand. We have them on hand for those unknown things that come up. And it's like today, I was just reading for my next preparedness testimonies video that will be about 6 weeks out. Uh, I was reading one lady's story about, or her testimonial, which was really twofold, about how being prepared helped them through some difficult times. And both situations involved illness, hospitalization, and surgery. And so that one was her husband, and then later on, herself. And she was really grateful that she was prepared because it got them through those difficult times. And this is what people have to see. And that's why I'm saying this goes hand in hand with the video on, how to talk to your loved ones, friends and family, about being prepared. And, too many times, like even under in the comments that I've seen so far under that, one lady's like, well, I only prepare for catastrophic events. And it's like, really? That's all you prepare for? Um, what's going on? Gave up waiting, open the page, and it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't a problem here. Oh, if you're talking, Linda, if you're talking about on Sunday, yeah, that was weird. What I had to do was start a whole new window and then try it again. If that's what you're talking about. Hopefully that wasn't just now, because I'm not showing any issues on my end. But anyway, I thought that was a little odd. It's like, why would you only? That's weird. Yeah, that's really strange, Linda, because I didn't have a problem coming on this time. Why would you only prepare for a catastrophic event unless that's all you've been taught being prepared is about? Do we honestly think that most of our ancestors and a lot of people that were putting up their canned goods from the things they put up from their garden, do we honestly think all those people were doing that because they were so afraid of a catastrophic event? I mean, I'm sure there was the common thought, like, well, you never know when someone's going to get sick, someone's going to have to see the doctor. This is why they always keep commercials there. You shouldn't see any commercials in the middle, only to get started, only in the very, very intro. You can't disable commercials altogether on lives, unfortunately. Anyway, mostly what people were doing was setting aside cash for emergencies. A lot of times it would be doctor related type emergencies, and putting up the goods from their own gardens, because that's just what people did. They grew food and then they put it up in dried form, in canned form, whatever form. And so it wasn't called preparedness. They weren't called preppers. They were just living life. That's what people did. And this is what I'm talking about, that when you're trying to encourage people to do such things, you need to show them the real life stuff. Well, yeah, we do this because, well, we got a garden. We're not just going to eat the stuff fresh from the garden because we're not going to be eating green beans for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. That would be really old, get really old. We'll use some of them fresh and use them in dinner, but we're also going to can a bunch of them up so we have them all year round. Then we don't have to buy green beans through the year either. So not only do we get to enjoy them straight from the garden, we get to enjoy them all year long and we don't have to go to the store. This is why we grow the stuff, at least for those items. I mean, people still had to go to the store. Not everybody grows sugar. Not everybody grows wheat for making their own flour. Even back then, people still had to buy flour, sugar, and a lot of other things. And people who didn't have dairy animals had to buy butter and milk, just like they do today. So the problem is the focus. So this is why I come back to the whole go bag, bug out bag thing. Thank you, T. Very kind of you. I appreciate it. And again, I'm so glad you were able to make it today. So it's about making sure you have what you need in case a need comes up. So one of the things I've shared before is that I always keep some kind of, whether it be a tie that I'm already wearing in my hair or some kind of cordage in my purse. This is just crocheted micro cord. It's made like parachute cord, but it's micro. It's easier to crochet because it's a micro cord. And as is, this can make a good tie for my hair. It can make a good tie for just about anything, and it's very strong. But if I absolutely had to, I could take this apart and have triple this length in cording for whatever. So one time we'd gone to town and I had my backpack, like the one you see in the thumbnail, was in the truck. And it was one of those days where it just was taken all day to do anything. And Patrick needed to stop at some place. I don't remember what it was. I can't remember what he was buying, but it was something that was, like piping, or I don't think it was boards. It was something long that would not fit in the bed of the truck, or obviously in the cab of the truck. But, he has this lumber rack that he built himself. It was something he could put on top. Well, normally he keeps tie down straps in the trucks, always, just for that purpose. But for some reason, his tie down straps did not get put back in the pickup before that we went into town to take care of this stuff. And I don't even remember if it was something he stopped and remember. Oh yeah, I forgot. I wanted to get this. And maybe that was another reason why I didn't think of it. Well, I had a few different hair ties. I had other ones I made out of a even thicker cording than the micro cord. It wasn't as heavyweight as paracord, which I actually have some of that in here so you can see the difference. Where is it? Okay, here's the and this is what I'm talking about here. This is not paracord. It's similar, but it's thicker than the micro cord I was showing you. Made a hair tie out of that. And then you've got your regular paracord like this right here. Okay, this is like, I think I macro made this and I had it tied onto something. So this is actually paracord. So this is the kind you'd use for a parachute. And it's going to be the strongest. But anyway, I had a couple of these in my bag. And so that's what we used to tie whatever those things were I don't remember to the lumber rack. So it's the simple things like that that you may not think of. Just like we keep water in the bigger bags that we keep in the rigs, we always keep in stainless steel, not plastic, stainless steel bottles with water in them that I've also added a little bit of the CS, the infused, the precious metal infused water to help keep it from spoiling at all. We've never had a problem with that, but we've always got that water in there if we need it, whether we need it to drink, like maybe we're just on the road and we don't feel like stopping. And it's like, I'm really thirsty. Oh yeah, I got some water in my bag because I forgot to bring other water or something else to drink. Well, I've got that water. Or I can use that water to hydrate one of those little tablets I was talking about in the other video that published on, my last one on 5 more things to consider having on hand. And I keep some of those in my purse somewhere. I have one of those little orange match things in here. Of course, I won't be able to find it because I'm talking about it. But anyway, somewhere in here. And I've got those little tablets, so expandable towels, and they're biodegradable. So, if you have to use them to go to the bathroom with, out on alongside the road, you can not worry about it. It's going to biodegrade. Or you can use it as a washcloth or to clean anything. Well, you got the water. You just need to add a couple drops of water to it and it's going to expand. And now you've got this cloth. So, excuse me. So just think of it as more than just a bug out bag. That should be okay. Yeah. In case we have to bug out, it's nice to know that we've got this stuff. Well, one of the reasons I brought this up was because somebody made the statement the other day on, I can't remember which video it was. I also have flashlights in here, by the way. I should be checking to see if they work. Still works. That I can't remember exactly what was being talked about in the video or which video it was, but she was saying basically, I think it was the 5 more things to consider keeping on hand. And she was talking about how it seemed pointless to plan on bugging out, because of volcanoes. And it sounded to me that she was saying that like that would be the only reason to bug out, to have to leave your house, is in the event of a volcano. Now, if you are living anywhere close to a super volcano, and yeah, it'd probably be pointless. You're probably not going to make it out of that one. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be prepared for other types of events. So just like, I've brought this up so many times, but I think it's a great example and makes me glad it happened, that a couple of summers ago when we had a wildfire, which is not normal for our very wet area. Outside of this very wet area, yeah, but not here. And it was they were already starting to evacuate neighborhoods, and ours would have been, they had put the neighborhood closest to us, where my sister-in-law lived, on alert to be ready to have to evacuate. And then the one on the farther side had already been evacuated, which is my daughter-in-law's parents lived in that area. So they had to evacuate. So how do you know it's not going to be something as simple as just a wildfire coming through? Are you just going to stay? Are you going to bug in and hope that you make it out alive? So because of that, it was that was one of those wake up calls. It's like, that's something we never thought of, was a wildfire that could totally destroy our home. Now, thankfully, the winds died down, and between the fire department and the other entities that got involved, they managed to put the fire out before more than just one home. Sadly, one home did get destroyed, but at least it was just one and not our whole town. So, those are the kind of things people don't think about. So yeah, being prepared to have to vacate your area, you should have a game plan. So the fire thing was like, wow, we hadn't thought of that one. That was one we definitely didn't think of, because yeah, I'm more of a, depending on the situation, a bug in kind of person. But there may be a situation, it doesn't have to be a worldwide catastrophic event or a statewide. It could be just something that affects your neighborhood or your little town, or even just your home. And there's something I state over and over again, because you never know if something's going to happen that's going to affect only you and your home. So having bug out bags, something ready to go, or boxes, and a plan in place. If you've got farm animals, you might not be able to save them all, but you should be able to at least consider the fact that open up if it's a fire, open everything up and give them a chance to save themselves. Because we wouldn't have been able to pack up all of our chickens with us. but we did start quickly making a plan. Just on the spot plan, but thankfully we have other pieces of property and we have things that and places that we can go. We had friends on one side on the farther side of town. Well, outside of town, they're saying you can come stay with us if you need to. And it's like, well, that's good to know. And then if it was on the opposite side of town, well, we've got our mountain property that we could always get to. If it's coming this way, then we could go that way. And but we had the box truck and Patrick brought it over and we were going to start loading it up with the most important stuff and get out and hope that our house made it, and and our chickens. And so yes, my son is an assistant chief on the local fire department. So he may be chief someday. He hasn't decided if that's a job he really wants, but it might happen. Because it's a lot of responsibility and he already has a full-time job. Here the chief gets paid. I don't know if he gets paid for what he does, but mostly our fire department is all volunteer. Yeah. Usually are smaller towns. They can't afford to pay firefighters, and just the chief is paid, I think, by the city. Or no, I guess it would be county. But at any rate, like I said, this is why I wanted to bring this topic up again on both the thought of bugging out, because you don't know if you may have to leave. You may have to, and it might not be for the reasons you assume. Or if you're on the road, maybe you just broke down alongside the road in the middle of nowhere. You're going on a family vacation or you're whatever. I mean, that's happened to us. Of course, we had our camp trailer with us with food and all kinds of stuff. So, and a bathroom. So we were good as far as that goes. We just had to wait alongside the highway while big trucks are going by and honking at us, which was super annoying, until we could get towed into the closest town. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. There have been so many times I've needed to get into the excess items I keep in my purse or in our bags that I keep in the truck for things that were totally benign. Nothing scary, nothing horrible, nothing catastrophic. Could be something as simple as getting out my little tiny tape measure. I keep one in my purse. I keep one in, I think, each of my bags, because, let's stop and buy this, or that's right, we were going to get that, but we need to measure. We need to measure stuff. We need to know what length we need, whatever. I mean, there's been so many times that tape measure has come in handy. And like I said, the pocket knives and the flashlights and the water and even the snacks, the snacks that should last pretty much indefinitely that I keep in the bags. Because again, it's like, man, I'm really hungry. I don't want to stop and eat, or it's going to be a long time before we get to the next town with a restaurant. I want some food. And this is how we approach a situation when we're talking to friends and family. Because I had more people in the comments under today's video. I'd already planned on talking about this, but it was just kind of timely that video came out today. And then some more comments where a couple people were talking about, well, every time I bring it up, I just get so much hate, or I get called names, I get treated badly. I've had that happen to me too. Until I learned, you don't tell people this is what they should do. You don't focus on the big, bad, scary, catastrophic stuff. You just show them the common sense of having things on hand, of keeping a few supplies in your rig. First aid kits. I've got a couple different forms of first aid kit. Well, here's a little one here. We got bigger ones that stay in the rigs. You just never know. I mean, I know I've said that 50 times, but it's just, those are the things. Oh, here's a couple more examples that have nothing to do with what most people think of as preparing, but it was me being prepared as a dance instructor and dance show leader. I learned to keep certain things on hand when it came to putting on dance shows. Band-Aids, safety pins, bobby pins. So inevitably, some little girl's going to come running up going, the strap broke on my dress just before the show's getting started. Come here, let's fix it. I got safety pins. I kept a bunch of safety pins of various sizes. Oh, somebody got a boo-boo. I got to put here, I got a Band-Aid. Now you're not going to bleed all over your costume. You know, being prepared is not a crazy thing. It can be for the simplest stuff that when you need that safety pin, you're going to be really glad that you had that safety pin in your purse or in your pocket or in your wallet or in your car. And sometimes it's the simplest stuff. And we have to stop focusing. I mean, for ourselves, it's like, yeah, okay, now that I'm prepared for this, yeah, let's prepare for some bigger events just in case they happen. And even if they don't, I'm glad I have this stuff because it's gotten me through some other tough times, but especially when we're talking to other people. What I like to call, like I said earlier, what I like to call my stuff is on the go preparedness. You're always on the go. You're driving somewhere, you're going here, you're going there. I take my purse. Tonight I got to go pick up my Azure Standard order. Our second one that's going to be delivered locally. Yay! I'm so glad. Anyway, I save so much on shipping. But I'm going to have my purse with me. What if I get down there and whatever, maybe even somebody needs some help with something. I got a pocket knife. You know, somebody needs to cut something open. I got a pocket knife. Who knows? I'm there. I've got my stuff. I'm ready to go. And like I said, at least when it comes, especially when it comes to my on the go stuff, my purse items, bag items, everything that we've used for anything has never been for a catastrophic event. It's never been about bugging out. It's just been about I'm so glad we had this on hand. This really kind of saved us having to go spend money on something else or trying to figure out how we going to get this stuff home and not have it fly off the truck. So yeah, so that's the point. That was the point of what I was trying to say, both in the video that published today, which was, as you guys know, was from a former live show about 6 weeks ago. But then, you know, also about the whole on the go preparedness. So again, I want to remind everyone that the link to that full playlist on the go preparedness, you'll find in the description box where I break down the different parts. Like I have one that's just about this. I have one that's just about my purse. I have one that's just about this black bag here and one that's about the backpack. Now, a few things have changed since, like, I don't remember if in those videos I ever got around to getting some socks, a pair of clean, dry socks, but somebody reminded me of that. You know, I have sewing kits, whatever, mini sewing kits and whatnot. Scissors. Scissors were one of the things I made sure to always have in my purse because I always seem to need them because I'm usually bringing my crochet stuff, sometimes forget to pack my scissors, so there's always a pair in my purse, along with my pocket knives, because there's some cases the pocket knife's better than scissors and vice versa. So, yeah, go check out that playlist. And really, that was my topic for today. But that doesn't mean I'm done. As long as YouTube was going to bless me enough to let me stay, I'll stay for at least, you know, for up to another half hour. So I have a few other things I do want to talk about just for the heck of it. Today I did go out, well, yesterday and today. In fact, I'm hoping this back here, I got my dehydrator right up there running. I've got mostly comfrey in there and some lemon balm. And we're having a decent day. Got it plugged into solar power. And well, Dusty, that wasn't really going to be my topic for today. But if you watch Monday's This and That video on my main channel, I do talk a little bit about that. But so anyway, I harvested my comfrey, I harvested some lemon balm, and I finally got some lemon balm vinegar going. So the first harvest of my lemon balm and comfrey, that's another thing I tend to forget is a couple more of the first herbs. So usually it's the nettle first, and shortly after, then the comfrey and the lemon balm are ready to start harvesting. And and the great thing about most of this stuff is you can just hack it all the way down. It's just going to grow more, and you can hack it down again. And the great thing about comfrey, so here you go, Dusty. Here's a little tip on gardening. If you grow comfrey, even if you're not going to use all that, you feel like, okay, I've got plenty enough dried up for teas and poultices and infused oils. But it just keeps growing. Just keep hacking it down, because here's what you do is comfrey is a great chop and drop. It's so good for your soil. So you can just keep hacking it down and let it fall into your garden, or sprinkle it around in your garden. You can do the same thing with your stinging nettle. Lots of great nutrient. In fact, most of your plants, dandelion, you got lots of dandelion. You've already got enough put up, and you're getting tired of eating salads with dandelion leaves in it. Then just start hacking them down, and then sprinkle it around on your garden areas. Let it feed your soil. So borage, there's a lot of your herbs that you can do that with. Very good for your oil if they just keep coming back. Oh yeah, my rhubarb's going crazy right now too. But it's not big enough yet that I'd start harvesting it yet. That should be pretty soon, and then I'll be dehydrating a bunch of that, because I sure love using that rhubarb powder in my pies and in my berry, whatever, dessert I'm going to make with berries and other fruits, crisps, cobblers and whatnot. It's a great way, and it's free virtually, since we can't grow citrus trees very good here. I don't have to worry about using lemon juice. So comfrey brings all the bumblebees. Absolutely. That's the one thing I notice about the comfrey when it starts blooming. It's, here come the bumblebees and all the related bees. They're not all considered bumblebees, but they're all fuzzy and cute and fat and bumbly. So to me, they're all bumblebees, but they sure love the comfrey. That's like one of their favorites. So, and then when the borage blooms, which will be interesting if I get borage come back this year. Usually I have borage coming up all over the garden, but the chickens keep it eaten down because they love it. So once I fence them off from that main garden area, I'm curious to see if I'll get any borage this year, since I didn't plant anything, so they were allowed all of last year to roam that garden and eat all that borage down. So we'll see. Hopefully there's still some latent seed in there. Borage usually grows pretty well in most places, but I'm not sure if it's really hot and dry. I don't know how well it would do. I really don't know. It tends to retain a lot of water, especially in the stalk and in the root. So it does like water. There was something else I was going to say about that. Oh, darn. I got sidetracked. It's your guys' fault. But of course, that's why you're here, is to chat. White borage. I think I've heard of white borage, but I've never seen it. It's the blue. And sometimes the flowers can be purple or pink, but mostly blue. I love adding the flowers to salads because it just adds the color. I'm pretty sure, Tammy, maybe that wasn't you that asked me last time. I've never used cleavers. They grow wild out at my friend's place. I mean, she's harvested them out there. I never have. So I have no experience and very little knowledge on how to use them because I've never bothered looking it up. But yeah, chocolate mint is one of my favorites. I have some growing in a pot that I hope comes back, because between the two golden comets that keep coming up on my deck and getting in my pots, I've got all the pots protected now, but I'm like, hope my chocolate mint. I do have more chocolate mint growing right in front of the greenhouse, though, so I'm good. I got peppermint out front and peppermint on the side, and then chocolate mint right in front of the greenhouse, and it's my favorite. I like to add a sprig of it when it's fresh to my coffee in the morning, and then just kind of let it steep in there. So good. Let's see. What else was I going to talk about? But yeah, I do talk about some garden updates in Monday's video. So make sure if you're not subscribed to my main channel, it's always linked in the description box of this one. Um, but make sure you're subscribed. That's my main channel. That's where all my stuff goes. This is just for live shows mostly. But yeah, so Monday's video, I do give a garden update, and I'm sure I forgot something though. But yeah, my tomato plants in those little succulent pots that are only that tall, those long skinny ones. They're like my tomato plants are this tall and the little pot's only this tall. So pretty soon I'm going to have to plant them out in the greenhouse. I'm just worried because sometimes we can get a, a freeze in April, and I'm thinking it should as long as I shut the door of the greenhouse, now that Patrick has the soffits or the openings up under the roof all closed up and insulated, they should be fine as long as I remember to close the door, because I'm still letting the chickens take their dust baths in there because it's the only really dry place they have to do it when it's pouring down rain. And they make everything in there super, super dusty. So talking about real dust, not person dust. Ew. Meaning I'm not talking about dusty in chat. I'm talking about the dirty, dusty dust. So, okay. Here's something. So I've been debating. We did end up taking out 2 of our last remaining old Buff Orpingtons, because one was clearly getting very sick and the other one was palsy. Neither one of them had started laying. So it's like, we should just take them out because the one was getting in really bad shape. Not sure what was going on there, if it was just old age or if she has some kind of weird illness. But she was getting to where she could hardly walk. So it's like, I just can't. And she was one of my favorites, Kicking Bird. And then Minnie Pearl was the other one. You guys who've been following me remember Minnie Pearl. Minnie Pearl, put a sock in it. I still got that funny clip. Her. So we had to take those 2 out, and then we took out Roxy, who was young, but she's just been not a very healthy bird. We got her from a friend, and she's only like a year and a half old. She started laying, but would only lay like every other day, and then maybe once every couple of weeks. And it was just like, and then she just quit laying altogether, and she hasn't started laying since. And that was like late last spring that she quit laying, or early summer. And it's like, what's going on here? So we decided it was just take her out. So that was sad. So I'm back down to 10 hens, which was a good number for us. And then my rooster. So I'm like, okay, do I want to try hatching out chickens again and possibly end up with a bunch of roosters that we'll have to take out? But at least, if we take them out young, they make a good dinner. Or do I want to just get chicks from the local nursery like we normally, well, not normally, but like we've done for, I got a few last year and I hatched some out. So I'm like, well, let me just call and find out if they're even going to get Buff Orpingtons, because I've decided for us here, Buff Orpingtons are just the best breed for us. The other ones always seem to be problematic in many other ways. And the Buff Orpingtons just always seem to be the healthiest, the best layers. And because they're bigger, meatier chickens, they're not as likely to hop a fence and get out and run around the neighborhood. So I called down there today, and this was sad, but at least it helped me make my decision. And I just called to see if they were going to get any Buff Orpington chicks this year. And she goes, well, the question is if we'll get any chicks at all this year. They haven't been able to get any. They should have some in there by now. And it sounds like they're not getting any. And so I'm like, well, I might still check back next month, because usually when they get the buffs, they get them in May, just to see if they were able to finally get their hands on some. But if not, it's helped me to make my decision that I am definitely going to go ahead and hatch out some chickens, and I'm only going to, they're not going to be full bred Buff Orpingtons, but I'm pretty happy with Isabella. She seems to be, she's the product of Claire, my remaining Buff Orpington, original Buff Orpington, and Antonio, who is not Buff Orpington. And she's mostly the color of a Buff Orpington on her front, on her top half. She's gold, but then she turns to shades of brown on her bottom half. But she's laying pretty regular, but she's always acting like she's broody, yet she keeps laying. So she wants to hang out in the nesting box most of the day. And she'll keep going in and out of there, and then she'll finally lay an egg. But she's acting broody. I'm like, well, we'll see. I think she's going to be a pretty good chicken. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go ahead and only collect the eggs from my Buff Orpingtons. I'm going to get as many from Claire as I can, because was always her and Broomhilda were my two favorites of my Buff Orpingtons, because they were two sweetest. And if you're new, you might be wondering, well, why did you name the one Broomhilda? Well, because when she was maybe not a year old, I don't know how old she was, she bit me really hard. She left a mark on my arm. I'm like, you jerk. So I called her Broomhilda from that day forward. And then all of a sudden, now out of the blue, she became one of my two sweetest hens. And then the second to Claire and Broomhilda was Kicking Bird. And Kicking Bird was one of the ones we had to take out. So that was difficult. But yeah, Broomhilda became even more cuddly than Claire. And Claire was the most cuddly one. And so that was really hard, and we had to take her out a couple of years ago. She was one of the first we had to take out. So anyway, since Isabella doesn't look like she seems really young to me to be going broody, because she's not even a year old. She's my youngest hen that I have. And so I'm like, maybe she doesn't know what's going on with her body. Maybe she's just playing, cosplaying broody hen. But I don't know that Claire has ever gone broody, even though she's been a great layer. And she's 8 years old now. She's been a great layer. She's been a good, sweet chicken. I don't remember if I've ever seen her go broody. And I can't guarantee that any of my younger ones, my youngest Buff Orpingtons. So right now I have a total of 4 pure Buff Orpingtons. So I'm only going to be collecting eggs from those 4. Now, Silver, I don't know what she is. She's actually a pretty good chicken. She's become a little sweeter now that she's I think 2 years old now. She'll let me hold her. She doesn't really let me catch her, like wait, for me to get her, but she doesn't run away from me. And if I do happen to get a hold of her, she's totally cool with me holding her and petting her. But she's not a very meaty bird. She doesn't get out. I mean, I could collect eggs from her. I'm not sure. I just don't know if I want to. But Antonio's pretty big, so I probably would be okay. I just am going to feel best if I go with just the Buff Orpingtons for now. And then maybe hopefully next year I can get some more pure Buff Orpingtons to add to my flock. Yes, chickens will ruin a garden. However, well, not ruin a garden. Let me put it this way, because through the fall and winter, my chickens run loose in my garden areas. Not all of them, just because they wouldn't have access to all of them because of where they're located, because I have a garden area, the West Herb Garden. I got a little strip out here that they just wouldn't have access to unless I just let them run loose all over the neighborhood. But in the closed-in areas like the backyard and the front yard, where I do actually have closed-in areas, they're allowed to roam free in all of those areas all through the winter, late fall to early spring. In fact, right now they're still allowed to roam. They've been cut off from most of the front yard garden, and they have a strip now just right up next to the house where they can go out there and hang out in the sun, and scratch around a little bit. I said the other day it's about 5 feet wide, and I was looking at it, it's like it's probably close to 7 feet wide strip and about maybe 20 feet long. And so they can come through from the backyard and hang out there when they feel like it and then go back to the backyard. But the main section of the front yard garden is blocked off because I have potatoes planted. So they won't destroy a garden. They're actually good for it because they till it up, they poop, they'll get all of the slug eggs and the baby slugs, and they'll really bring your slug population down. But once you start planting stuff, you don't want them, especially your annuals, your perennials, most of your perennials will be just fine. They have not hurt my perennials as long as they're well established. Like I've got lily growing out here, comfrey that they've had free range to, and they'll eat the comfrey. I mean, they'll just keep eating it as it's coming up. So another reason to block them off from that area if I ever want to get comfrey. But they don't dig it up, especially anything that's well established. But once you got your annuals in there, you don't want your chickens in there because they will dig everything up and destroy it. So in that sense, yes, they will destroy it. But it just depends on how established some things are. Or, they'll eat the things, even if they don't tear up your plants, once the beans and the peas and the tomatoes and the things start growing, anything that's in reach, they will eat. They will eat it. So they will destroy that. They will eat a pumpkin. I didn't even think about it one year, before we kind of closed in the one archway. I had a pumpkin that was growing kind of just a little bit outside of the arched area. And I was like, oh, cool. It's a little pie pumpkin. And then one day I go to check it out, and the chickens had totally hollowed the doggone thing out. Oh, so yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'm high grading my eggs now from my chickens, and of course not washing them. So if you're ever in a situation where you need to incubate your eggs yourself because you're wanting to either high grade them like I'm doing, I don't want chicks hatching out from all of my chickens. So that's another reason why, unless I had a hen go broody, then I'd be sticking the specific eggs under her, but I'd have to have them all in there at the same time and ready to go once she goes broody. Where in an incubator, you got more control. So, I can pick the eggs I want from the chickens I want, and I don't have to wait for somebody to go broody. The nice thing about allowing a hen to do it themselves is they will raise those chicks and protect them. And so you don't have to do the work of worrying about how to keep them safe or where to keep them once they have hatched out. So you're letting the hens do all the work, which would be nice. But yeah, in this situation, I don't know when or if I'll have a hen go broody, and I'd kind of like to get started on that soon. Just in case for some reason, we have to take out any more chickens. I know, it just seems like a lot of these other chickens aren't near as healthy as my Buff Orpingtons always were. Even the youngest Buff Orpingtons that I got last year from the nursery, I mean, they seem healthy enough, but they just don't seem as beefy, and maybe it's because they're still on the younger side, because they're not quite a year. They'll be a year old next month. So I don't know. They just, yeah, we'll see. But at least this way I know I'm got what stock I've got. I've got Antonio, who's a nice, big, healthy rooster. He's a good rooster. He's well mannered. And then I've got my Buff Orpingtons, which, by the way, so the other day I heard Antonio carrying on, like that sound like there's something in the backyard that doesn't belong there. And the hens were carrying on. I step out and the hens are all kind of to one side of the backyard up close to the house. But Antonio is towards the back where I've kind of got a little fenced area to keep him away from the no man's land. Because now that the neighbors took out their hedges, and I've got chickens that like to hop the short little fence we had to put up. I've got this set up anyway. I'll just put it that way. So I see Antonio looking, and I've got like a privacy screen hung up there. and I see him kind of looking towards a corner where there's a little bit of an opening there. And so I'm like, and he's carrying on and he's just looking. He's looking and he's looking tough, but there's a little fence there. I think if he could have gotten over that fence or through that fence, he would have. And I'm looking and I see a little cat face peeking through at him. And then a couple seconds later, another cat face. There was 2 cats stalking my chickens. And Antonio was keeping his eye on them. And of course, making the sound that roosters do so that the hens will know to go hide. So I'm like, you guys, I just had a feeling. And so I grabbed my spray bottle of water and had it on stream. And sure enough, the was like, shh, 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 and they took off. They haven't been back since. Hopefully that was enough to keep them in their own yard. Well, they won't stay in their own yard, but at least out of our backyard. So no, I didn't hatch out the buff Orpingtons we have. The pure buff Orpingtons were all from like my very first ones, the 7, my old girls. I got those all from the local nursery. And then last year I got 3 more buff Orpingtons from the local nursery. And then a few years back I got some black, or it'd be closer to 6 years ago, I got some black sex links. Now I was told they would only lay for 2 years, but they laid clear up until last year. And then they all quit laying, and one got really, really sick. And so by that point, I was like, well, I got 5 years out of them. That's pretty good. But it was time for them to go because I had new chickens coming in, and they were jerks they're just jerks. I thought they were supposed to be nice birds. They're nice, they never tried to hurt us, but they were jerks to the other chickens. I'm just so used to buff Orpingtons being a little more accepting of new chickens. You always have one that's going to be a jerk, but anyway, so my money's on. Yeah, because Linda, he is a big rooster. I mean, he's like his body, he's like this fat. Or, if you see him with his feathers and all. I'm sure if he was wet, he wouldn't look so fat. But yeah, he's just like big. And if I try to hold him when I do hold him, he doesn't really like that. But he once I got a hold of him, he's fine. He's calm. But he's just like this big, huge armful of bird. So, but he's so good. He takes good care of the hens. He's so beautiful. I love him so much. Antonio was supposed to be a female. We were getting from a friend. I was just wanting hens at the time. And he ended up being a rooster, but that's okay. I'm like, well, I've been wanting a rooster. I've just been more nervous about having a rooster because they're loud. But my neighbors have been cool. And I try to respect them. I try to remember on Friday nights to to block off the area to the front yard so that he can't go out there and crow early on a Saturday morning and Sunday morning when people are trying to sleep in, because it would be the people this way that would be more disturbed by his crowing than the ones back here, because they either can't hear because they're old and their hearing's really bad, or, we do have a hearing impaired neighbor. And even then her bedroom is on the far end, as far away from, where my chickens are as can be, and still be living right next door to us. So I do try to be respectful of my neighbors, and so far nobody's complained, at least not to us. And I did talk to, well, these people moved in long after, after we already had our rooster, I think. And I've already had talked to other neighbors around that, if I ever got a rooster, would you guys be okay with it? Sure, no problem. So, and the lady across the street, she just loves birds of any kind. She loves chickens. She loves birds. She loves crows. She like me. This is the one thing I miss about, having the chickens, is that before I had chickens, I had my crow friends. I had my crow buddies. And they'd come hang out in my backyard. And there was one that was letting me get really close to it. And I was like, oh, and then shortly after that, we got chickens. And so obviously the chickens don't let the crows eat whatever snacks I throw out there. So I keep trying to remember to throw some out to the front yard, but it's okay. My neighbor's taking care of the crows now. So, but I felt bad. I felt like I had abandoned my crow buddies. But, and the crows never bother my garden. Never did. It's like crows are smart. it's like they know to just not hurt your stuff if because they know you're a good person and they remember. So they're funny that way. I think crows are just fascinating creatures. And then you have their cousin, their relative, the magpie, which we don't obviously have. I don't know if there's any in the States, but like in Australia, those things crack me up. I think some of those can be pretty friendly too, but I don't know that they're necessarily as friendly as crows and ravens can be. But we don't have ravens around here. We just have crows. At least I don't think I've ever seen a raven. Mike had a pet cow named Petey. Aw. How's Mike doing today, by the way? That was good to hear that his surgery went well and all that. I'm always just so shocked at how such surgeries like that used to be you're in the hospital for a long time. And it's like now it's just like they've become so strange. I mean, this is what I can definitely say about our medical system, at least in the United States, is that when it comes to like emergency care, surgery, I mean, I would say they're probably not necessarily all of them, of course, top notch. I mean, they can still make mistakes and you can still have bad surgeries or unnecessary surgeries, but um, we've got a pretty good medical system when it comes to emergency care and that kind of stuff. So he used to ride his bike handlebars. The cow did? Oh, the crow. I said cow. How did the cow ride on the handlebars? A crow named Petey. I'm sorry, Deb. I should put my glasses on. Good gravy. A little lazy today. How dare he be lazy the day after surgery? Well, good. Good, good, good. So answers to prayer. So some of you remember we're praying for Mike. So that's a good thing. Very good. I'm looking at my notes to see if there was something else I wanted to say. Okay, I think I talked about that. But here's something. So I was mentioning how we're getting Azure Standard order in. Well, now that we can get our order directly from Azure Standard and delivered here in town, I can actually order things I couldn't order before when I had to have it delivered UPS. So I'm trying out. I mean, I have to admit, I love that Australian beef, grass-fed beef I've been getting from Butcher Box, but it would be nice, especially with everything going on, if I could focus more on local. We have got local grass-fed beef before. It's not always available to us. And anyway, I noticed that I could get not only, like a beef roast or beef roasts, but you could get beef roast and other types of fresh meat that's all, US based meat and, organically grown, no hormones and all that through Azure Standard, but they also have beef bacon. So I'm trying a package of that. I ordered a package of the beef bacon and a roast so I could try them. And I'm hoping I like them as much as the beef that I was getting from Australia through Butcher Box. Now, Butcher Box, by the way, does have US raised chickens and other meats, but all their beef comes from Australia. And then the other place I like to get beef from that is US, and it's just a state down for me because it's in Oregon, to you Oregon people, is Painted Hills. So if you haven't heard of Painted Hills, that's a really great place to get some beef. They make beef. All of their stuff is beef. It is all beef. They don't use any pork or anything else. So even in their beef franks, they don't like sometimes some places might make beef franks, but the casing is made with pork. They don't do that. So they have a great beef bacon, and beef franks, beef roast, beef burger. So you can, they don't use hormones. It's not necessarily, I think they have some grass fed, but not all of their stuff is grass fed, but they don't add hormones and that kind of antibiotics and all that. So Painted Hills out of Oregon. So for you Oregon people especially, I think you can order it from anywhere, but if you're really looking for something really local, I mean the ranch, it comes from the ranches down there in Oregon, and it's good stuff. So and you can do an order. I think now it has to be a $250 order, and then you get free shipping. At least it is for us. So our local store used to carry the Painted Hills, and that's how I first found out about it and had to try it. And I was like, man, this is good stuff. So I was buying their roasts and their burger and their beef bacon because they'd carry that. Then they stopped carrying that. I'm like, why? So yeah, and then I know there's other places like that are similar to Butcher Box. Butcher Box is what I use, and I always have the link in the description box. And that does help us out when you go through that link. But I know there's other places. I can't remember what they're called. Somebody might be able to remember and put it in chat. There's one that starts with a C, like cut Good Chop. There's one I think called Good Chop, but I think there's another one where I think on one of those, all of their meats, including their beef, comes from the US. So I know not everybody that watches me is from the US, but most people are, especially those who make it to my lives. Because usually if they're in Australia or New Zealand or some of these other places, they aren't usually able to make it to the live. But is it Good Chop? I still think there's another one besides that. He doesn't do bacon. Yeah, it's a bummer. We do have on the rare occasion Pat gets a chance to go hunting and we get elk or deer, there are places that will butcher that, but we're getting ourselves set up to be able to do all that ourselves. So we have a meat grinder now and a meat slicer that both of them I think the meat slicer is the one he's not really sure about it. We bought both of them secondhand locally, people just getting rid of stuff. And I know the meat grinder, I can't remember if I showed it in a video or not, but it's a heavy booger, and it's definitely a good brand, though I don't remember what it's called. But at least now, if it comes right down to it, we can grind up, we can make our own burger out of that. That year that my youngest son, twice now in his life already, he's turning 30 on Friday, but he's hit an elk twice. The first one got away, but the second one, they were able to shoot it, and then because they had to put it out its misery anyway, and then we were able to process that, and so we got quite a bit of meat out of that. But we shared it with my daughter-in-law's grandparents who had like the meat grinder and all. They were set up to handle all that. So they helped us gather that elk and took it to their house and then started butchering it. And then we went out and helped and split it up, the meat. So that worked out really good. But it's just nice to know that we have a grinder now so we can at least take care of that ourselves. Now I've somewhat butchered, we've butchered a deer before ourselves, but we didn't have a grinder. So everything had to be cut up. That was the first time I ever made jerky. So it was deer jerky because I hadn't started pressure canning yet. So a lot of it, everything went into the freezer, got cooked up right away. So, or dehydrated in the oven because I didn't have a nice electric dehydrator like I have here. I just had my oven, so I just dried it in the oven, cracked the door open. I think I found like a recipe. I don't even think we had internet back then. So I think I found something in an old cookbook and found a recipe for a marinade and then how to dry it in your oven. It was easy, just using some cookie sheets. Am I here on time for the close? Probably. You haven't missed the close yet, but I'm going to be closing soon. But you know what, Tyler? It's all good. you're far more faithful to making it into here than I am into your live devotionals. Sorry. Usually that time in the morning, I'm dealing with a bunch of other stuff, just like this time of the day, you're dealing with farm stuff, I'm sure. Or you're trying to get Terry's foot out of your rear end. One of the two. My brother has hit 5 deer and 1 cow. Wow, that's gotta be a record. See, there's a saying that when you live here in the West End, we call this the West End. It's, we're on the peninsula of Washington State in the wettest side of the state, in the wettest part of the wettest side of the state. But anyway, it's just there's the certain section of our county that's just called the West End. And so it incorporates a few small towns. But anyway, so the saying goes that, how does the saying go? I can remember it, but you're a true West Ender when you've hit at least 1 deer or elk or one of each. Patrick totaled his work truck. Well, it wasn't his work truck. It was a truck he bought secondhand, and he got it for being his commuter truck when he was working, when he was treating water he was working for the county at the time. And his commute was about 45 minutes. He had to go over a mountain. And he was coming home one night and hit a deer, totaled the truck. But deer and elk are pretty, they will destroy a rig, because that's what happened to Justin's first rig. He just bought it. If you haven't heard this story, just bought his first rig, and it was a Jeep Cherokee. Bought it in Squim, and him and his dad were driving it home. Justin was behind the wheel at the time, and elk. I mean, we didn't even just bought it. Didn't even get a chance to, get it on the insurance. But, thankfully, auto insurance, usually you're covered for a few days or something like that. Because they give you this time to get something added, a new rig added to your insurance. So, and it was dark. Elk stepped right out in front of him on the highway, totaled the Jeep. We managed to limp it back to the house. And our insurance, that's one area, our auto insurance was great to us. He actually made money off the deal. I'll put it that way. So it turned out to be all right. And then the second one, I think if it was in his little car, and I think if it had been a deer, he probably would have totaled the car too. But since it was an elk, and elk are so much taller, he just hit the legs. And so what happened was the elk rolled over the top of the car, and he only kind of munched the hood a little bit and the bumper, but he didn't destroy it, didn't total it. But yeah, the Jeep, he was so heartbroken. It was his first rig. He saved up, he paid cash for it, and didn't even get it home, and it was totaled. He was so heartbroken. I think, how old was he? 17, 18 years old at the time. Oh man, he was so heartbroken. But you usually say, here with you must be talking to Tyler. Only spent the first half hour with the goats. So I'm going to see if there was anything else I might have missed there. I've been up before dawn and just sat down to breakfast. Well, Tyler, I think that's just the way breakfast, that's when it usually was. I think that's mainly why it was called Break the Fast, because it wasn't just about fasting during the night. It was because you get up early. That's what you did. You got up before dawn, you got a bunch of work done, then you came in and ate. And by then it could be noon. So of course, where you're at, I think you're 2 hours later. So you're probably about getting close to 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Because it's seeing the time right. Yeah, it's 10 to 1 here. So elk will come right through the windshield. Yeah. So a lot of it depends on the height, because the Jeep was taller. So when he hit it on the body. And those elk, they're just nothing but solid, massive marble. And that thing got up and it totaled his Jeep, but that thing got up and ran away. Now I don't know if it died later somewhere because it just disappeared. I I saw it. I because I was following them behind in our truck, and when he pulled over, I thought, "Oh no, what happened?" And then I saw the elk standing in the road. I jumped out of the truck and was running up there, and I'm looking at my son, and then I turned to look at the elk, and it's gone. The thing is just gone. It was standing there just a few seconds before looking kind of dazed. So I don't know if it I don't know if it ended up dying, but the Jeep was totaled. But, at least at that moment in time, the elk was not. But yeah, because it's taller, it's going to hit the body. So if you're in a truck or a Jeep or anything, it's going to be a little on the taller side, and you hit an elk, your vehicle is most likely going to be done for. If you're in a shorter vehicle and you hit an elk, you may be able to it might just roll over the top, like his little, what was that car? I don't remember what it was. It was some Ford something. Anyway, a shorter standard car. But if you hit a deer in a smaller car, you're probably going to total your rig. So just the way it is. I stopped driving at night. I don't like driving at night either anymore, Tammy. I get that, what do they call it? Stigmatism, where all the lights. It hasn't been as bad lately because it was dark when I had to go pick up my Azure standard order last month. And I noticed the lights didn't bother me then. But I've had times where it's just like those lights, those lines, and especially the LED lights of the signs now. All the signs are LED lights, and their rigs all have LEDs, and it's just like, or halogen, and oh my gosh, it's terrible. But yeah, thankfully last time it wasn't so bad. I was like, wow, I can actually see without all that craziness going on. So anyway, I kind of think that was it. I don't think I had any other points I wanted to cover other than just chitty chatty. But it has been well over an hour, and I should get going. As usual, I got videos to edit, but it is kind of nice today. Yesterday it was just pouring down rain. But I would like to get out into the front garden. I have some lemon balm I need to dig up, and some more morning glory and get rid of that, or bindweed. But yeah, the lemon balm, it's just going crazy out there, and I got way more than I could ever use. So I want to dig some of that up and make some more space to plant other types of herbs in that section. I might put another lovage or two out front. And I know I'm going to put a couple more echinaceas out there from my new plants that I just started this year. And I'll put a couple more out back as well. So anyway, I want to kind of get the ground prepared for that, as long as it's not going to pour down rain, and hopefully finish at least my this and that video, finish editing it. Hopefully. So anyway, well, I hope you guys all have Starburst. Now you just distracted me, Tammy. I haven't had Starburst in forever, but the strawberry was always my favorite. Strawberry. And orange is pretty darn good too. Anyway. Yes. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. And reminder, I won't be here live on Sunday. So I'll probably see you live again next Wednesday, depending on how the day goes. You'll know if you see the thing pop up showing a live show. And if I'm not going to go live, I'll try to make sure to post about it so you know. It's going to depend on the weather, because we might need to use that day to do some planting and tilling and whatever. So anyway, yeah, as I was saying, thanks for coming in. Take care and God bless. I'll see y'all